Imagine this. You raised a child as your own for 25 years, spent nearly $1 million on their dreams, and on their wedding day, they look you in the eyes and say, "You weren't invited. Please leave." What would you do? My name is Margaret Thompson. I'm 72 years old, and today I will tell you the most painful story of my life. It's a story about love, sacrifice, betrayal, and the hardest lesson I've ever had to teach. But let me start at the beginning, because every word in this story matters. 25 years ago, on a rainy October Tuesday, my entire world collapsed and was reborn in the same instant. My son David and his wife Sarah were driving home from a celebratory dinner when a drunk driver ran a red light. They died instantly. I remember the phone call came at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was staring at the clock on my nightstand, wondering why it was ringing so late. The voice on the other end was cold and professional. "Mrs. Thompson, I regret to inform you." The rest was a blur of words I didn't want to understand. Gone. Both of them. My only child and the daughter-in-law I had come to love as my own. But there was one more piece of information that changed my life forever. There was a child in the car. A 3-year-old girl. She's alive, but she keeps calling for her mother. Emily. My granddaughter. The little girl with David's bright blue eyes and Sarah's stubborn chin. I drove to the hospital through the October rain, my hands trembling, my mind torn between grief and the desperate need to keep living. When I walked into the pediatric ward and saw her, so small on the large hospital bed, clutching a torn stuffed bear, I made a promise that would define the next 25 years of my life. "Grandma Maggie?" she whispered, using the name she'd called me since she learned to speak. "I'm here, sweetheart," I said, taking her tiny hand in mine. "I'm here, and I will never leave you." Those first months were the hardest of my life. Emily woke up every night screaming for her mother. She refused to eat, wouldn't speak for days, and clung to me with such desperation that my heart shattered a little more each day. I was 47, recently divorced, and working as a real estate agent in a small Ohio town. My life had been quiet and predictable. Suddenly, I was a mother again to a 3-year-old who had survived trauma and needed everything I could give, and more. First, I sold my small 2-bedroom house and bought a larger one in a better school district that I could barely afford. Emily needed stability, safety, and hope for a brighter future. The mortgage was twice what I'd paid before, but I didn't care. I turned the guest room into a princess's palace. Pink walls, white furniture, a canopy bed that made her gasp with delight when she first saw it. For the first time since the accident, she smiled. "It's so beautiful, Grandma Maggie," she whispered, running her small hands over the soft pink blanket. "You're my princess," I told her, pouring every ounce of my soul into the words. And princesses deserve beautiful rooms. But it wasn't just about the room. Emily needed therapy. Expensive therapy with a specialist in childhood trauma. Dr. Rodriguez was the best in the state, but her sessions cost $200 each, twice a week. Insurance covered almost nothing. I took on extra clients, worked weekends, sometimes showed houses until 9 p.m. When Emily asked why I was always working, I ruffled her hair and said, "Grandma works, so we have everything we need, darling." I didn't tell her I'd stopped buying clothes for myself, cancelled my gym membership, stopped going out to dinner with friends. Every penny went toward building the life this little girl deserved. As Emily grew, So did her dreams and ambitions, and I made sure every single one came true. Piano lessons at age 7 with the best teacher in the county, $150 per lesson. Art classes at the local college when she showed interest in painting, $300 per semester. A private math tutor when she struggled with fractions in 3rd grade, $75 an hour, twice a week. Summer camps, museum trips, educational vacations to Washington and New York. I kept meticulous records of every expense, not to track costs, but to remember every investment in her happiness. When Emily was 10, she came home with a reports card full of straight A's and a troubled expression. "Grandma Maggie, school is boring," she announced at dinner. "We keep repeating things I already know. The teacher says I need more stimulation." I put down my fork and looked at her carefully. She was right. Emily was brilliant. From the very beginning. She read at a high school level, solved math problems that stumped kids twice her age, and asked questions that made adults pause. The public school, though good, wasn't enough for her mind. That weekend, I drove her to Riverside Academy, the most prestigious private school in our area. The campus was stunning. Ivy-covered buildings, small classes, students who looked engaged and eager to learn. "This is like Hogwarts," Emily whispered as we toured the science labs and library. The admissions interview went perfectly. Emily charmed the principal with her intelligence and curiosity. She was offered a spot on the spot. Then came the financial reality. $28,000 a year in tuition, plus uniforms, textbooks, activity fees, and required technology. For elementary school. I spent the entire night staring at the paperwork, calculating and recalculating. This would take nearly my entire income. I'd have to refinance my home, give up on retirement savings, and work myself to exhaustion. But when Emily came downstairs in her pajamas and asked, "Grandma, do you think I could go to a smart school?" I knew I had no choice. "Get your uniform ready, princess," I said. "You're going to the best school." Her scream of joy woke up the neighbors. She wrapped her arms around my neck and said, "You're the best grandma in the world. I'll study so hard you'll be proud of me." "You already make me proud," I whispered into her hair. "Every single day." Private school opened Emily's world in ways I couldn't have imagined. She made friends with children from wealthy families, discovered new interests and talents, and began dreaming bigger than ever before. It also made her aware of the difference between our lives and those of her classmates. "Grandma Maggie," she said one day when she was 12, "why don't we hire a housekeeper like Madison's family?" I was folding laundry at the kitchen table after a 10-hour workday. "Because we don't need one, sweetheart. We can take care of our own home." "But Madison's mom doesn't have to work. She goes to spas and has lunch with friends." I froze, holding a folded shirt. For the first time, Emily questioned our circumstances. "Different families have different situations," I said carefully. "Madison's dad makes a lot of money at his job. I make enough for us to have everything we need." "But don't you wish you didn't have to work so much?" That question hit me like a physical blow. Did I wish I worked less? Of course. I was constantly exhausted, barely keeping up with the mortgage, tuition, and all the other expenses that made Emily's life special. But looking at her serious face, I smiled. "I work because I love you. Everything I do because I want you to have the best possible life." She seemed satisfied with that answer, but I noticed she began paying more attention to what other families had that we didn't. When Emily turned 13, she came to me with what she called a very important request. "All the girls in my class are going to Europe this summer," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table with a folder full of papers. "It's an educational trip to England, France, and Italy. We'll visit museums and historical sites, practice French and Italian." She slid the brochure across the table. The photos were stunning. Teenagers standing in front of Big Ben, exploring ancient ruins, laughing over gelato in Venice. Then I saw the price. $8,500 for 3 weeks. "Emily," I said slowly, "that's a lot of money." "I know, Grandma Maggie, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Isabella, Madison, and all my friends are going. If I don't go, I'll be left out. And think of the educational value." She'd clearly rehearsed this speech. I could see how much it meant to her, how desperately she wanted to fit in. I thought about my savings account, the one I'd been building for her college education. It had about $12,000, saved over years of overtime and self-denial. "Let me think about it," I said. That night, I lay awake, doing the math. If I used most of the college fund, took on extra work, maybe picked up weekend shifts. 3 days later, I said yes. For 3 weeks, I received daily emails and photos. Emily in front of Big Ben, trying escargot in Paris, posing with friends at the Colosseum. She glowed with happiness and adventure. When she came home, she talked for hours about everything she'd seen and learned. But there was something else. A new sophistication, a social polish that further distanced her from our quiet life in Ohio. When Emily was 16, she started dating a boy named Tyler, whose father owned a chain of successful restaurants. Tyler was polite, handsome, and came from a family that would make the chains approve. He also had a BMW, designer clothes, and unlimited spending money. "Grandma Maggie," Emily said one evening, "Tyler wants to take me to prom, but the dress I want costs $400. $400 for a dress she'd wear once. I earned $400 in 2 days of work. But when I saw her in that dress, dark blue silk that made her eyes sparkle, her face lit with teenage joy, I knew I'd made the right choice." At the prom, I watched from the parents' corner as Emily danced with Tyler and his friends. She fit in perfectly. Beautiful, confident, refined. No one would guess she was the granddaughter of a woman who ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day to afford that dress. Emily's high school graduation was the happiest day of my life. She was valedictorian, accepted into every college she applied to, and received numerous academic awards. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said in her farewell speech, "I want to thank the person who made all this possible. My grandmother, Margaret Thompson, who sacrificed everything to give me every opportunity. Grandma Maggie, you are my hero." The entire audience gave her a standing ovation, but I barely heard it through my tears. After the ceremony, Tyler's parents approached me. "Mrs. Thompson," his mother said, "what an incredible job you've done with Emily. She's such a special girl." "Thank you," I said, still glowing from Emily's speech. Emily was accepted to Stanford University with a partial academic scholarship. Partial. The remaining cost, Tuition, housing, food, and other expenses would be $55,000 a year. Over 4 years, I'd need to cover $220,000. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the acceptance letter and financial aid package, trying to figure out how to make it happen. My house was worth about $150,000. I had about $8,000 in savings. I was 64 years old. But this was Emily's dream. This was everything we'd worked for. I refinanced my home, took out a Parent Plus loan, and decided to keep working until I was 70. Maybe longer. "Grandma Maggie," Emily said when I delivered the joyful news, "I can't believe this is really happening. Stanford, I'll study so hard, and you'll be so proud of me." "You already make me proud," I said. The same words I'd said for years. College changed Emily in ways I hadn't expected. She still loved me and sounded grateful when she called home. But with each semester, the distance grew. Her friends had different backgrounds, different expectations. In her junior year, she studied abroad in London, $15,000 more. She joined a sorority where other girls had trust funds and summer homes. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, Emily began to sound different on the phone. Her vocabulary was filled with references to places I'd never been and events I couldn't imagine. "How were your weekends, Princess?" I'd ask. "Oh, just typical Stanford life. Madison's parents took us to Napa for wine tasting, and tomorrow we're skiing in Tahoe. You should see it, Grandma. It's like another world." Another world. Yes, it was. A world I'd paid for her to enter, but one I could never step into myself. By her senior year, Emily's calls became less frequent. When she did call, she seemed distracted, focused on job interviews, grad school applications, and social events filling her calendar. "I miss you, Princess," I said during one brief conversation. "I miss you too, Grandma. It's been so crazy. You wouldn't believe how intense student life is." After graduation, Emily moved to New York to start a job at a prestigious consulting firm. She found an apartment in Manhattan that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Don't worry about rent, Grandma Maggie," she said when I expressed concern. "I'll be earning well, and you've already done so much for me." But 3 months later, she called with a problem. The apartment deposit was higher than I expected, and I had to buy business clothes, and New York is so expensive. "Could you help me for the first few months?" Of course I could. Of course I would. I sent her $5,000 from my already depleted savings account. 2 years later, Emily called with news that made my heart sing. "Grandma Maggie, I met someone. His name is Brandon, and he's amazing. He's a lawyer from a wonderful family, and I think he might be the one." Her joy was contagious. After years of worrying about loneliness in the big city, my Emily had found love. "Tell me about him, Princess." "He's everything I've ever dreamed of. Handsome, successful, kind. His family has a house in the Hamptons and another in Aspen. They're inviting me for Christmas. Can you believe it?" Christmas. For the past 22 years, Emily had spent Christmas with me. It was our tradition. Christmas Eve service at our little church. Christmas morning opening presents under the tree. Christmas dinner I spent days preparing. "That sounds wonderful, dear," I said, trying to keep disappointment out of my voice. "I'm so happy for you. You're the best, Grandma Maggie. I'll call you on Christmas morning and tell you all about it." Christmas morning came and went. The call never came. I spent the day alone, looking at photos of all our past Christmases together, wondering if this was how it was meant to be when children grow up and leave. The engagement. 18 months later, Emily called with news I'd been waiting for. "Grandma Maggie, Brandon proposed. We're engaged." I screamed with joy, dancing around the kitchen like a teenager. "Oh, Princess, I'm so happy for you. Tell me everything." She described the proposal: a surprise trip to Paris, dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant, a ring that cost more than I made in a year. It sounded like a fairy tale. "And now we're planning the wedding," she continued, her voice sparkling with excitement. "I want everything to be perfect, Grandma. The most beautiful wedding anyone has ever seen." "Of course, dear, and it will be." "When are you thinking?" "Next spring, May 22nd. We found an incredible venue, Rosewood Manor, about an hour outside the city. That's where all the best weddings happen." I knew Rosewood Manor by reputation. Celebrities and millionaires got married there. "That sounds beautiful, Emily. How can I help?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Actually, Grandma Maggie, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. The wedding will be expensive, and Brandon's family is contributing a lot. But you need help with your portion," I finished. "I know it's a huge ask, and I wouldn't even ask if you weren't the most generous, loving person in the world. But this is my dream wedding, and you've always made my dreams come true." Of course, I said yes. Of course, I said yes. The wedding planning consumed my life for the next 8 months. Emily called with updates, each one more expensive than the last. "We found the perfect florist. She did Jennifer's wedding last year, and she was featured in Martha Stewart weddings. The photographer we want has a waiting list, but he can make time for us if we pay the deposit now. Brandon's family really wants us to use their catering company. They're the best, but they have a minimum order of $180 per person." With every decision, I recalculated my finances. I sold my car and bought a used one. I cancelled my health insurance and hoped for the best. I took out another home equity loan. By March, the total had reached $85,000. $85,000 for one day. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd lost my mind. But then I'd picture Emily in her wedding dress, radiant with happiness, starting a new life with the man she loved. Wasn't that worth any sacrifice? As the wedding approached, Emily's behavior began to change, and it worried me. Our phone calls became shorter, less frequent. When I asked about details, what time I should arrive, where I'd stay, if she needed any help, her answers were vague. "Don't worry about anything, Grandma Maggie. Everything's under control." "But I want to help, Princess. It's your wedding day." "I know and I appreciate it, but Brandon's family has taken care of everything. Just focus on getting here." Something was off, but I chalked it up to pre-wedding stress. Emily had always been a perfectionist, and this was the most important day of her life. 5 days before the wedding, I called to confirm my arrival time, and Emily sounded stressed. "Grandma, I'm busy. Can I call you back?" "Of course, dear. I just wanted to make sure I know when." "I'll call you back." The line went dead. She didn't call back that day, or the next. When I finally reached her 2 days before the wedding, her voice sounded different, distant. "Emily, are you okay? You sound tense." "I'm fine, Grandma. Just busy with last-minute wedding stuff. Listen, I need to go to a fitting. See you at the wedding, okay? Okay, but... Love you, bye. The line went dead again. I sat with the phone in my hand, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. In 25 years, Emily had never been so abrupt with me, never brushed me off. The day before the wedding, I spent in a state of nervous excitement. I bought a beautiful dark blue dress, one of the most expensive things I'd ever bought for myself. And for the first time in many years, I got my hair done at a salon. Looking in the mirror, I saw a woman worn down by years of sacrifice, but happy. Tomorrow, my beloved granddaughter would marry the love of her life, and I would be there to witness it. I had earned this moment after 25 years of unconditional love and sacrifice. I carefully packed my things. The dress, comfortable shoes, tissues to catch the tears I knew I'd shed, and a small wrapped gift for Emily. Inside was a heart-shaped locket my grandmother gave me on my wedding day 50 years ago. I woke up at 5 a.m. on May 22nd, too excited to sleep. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. The day promised to be perfect. I prepared especially carefully, wanting to look my best on this special day for Emily. The dark blue dress fit perfectly, my hair was elegant, and for the first time in many years, I felt beautiful. As I drove the hour to Rosewood Manor, I thought of all the moments that led to this day. Emily's first steps, her first day of school, her graduation speeches, her call about Brandon, every sacrifice, every dollar spent, every sleepless night worrying about the future, all of it led to this perfect day. Rosewood Manor was even more beautiful than the photos. Rolling green lawns, ancient oaks, a mansion that looked like it came straight from a movie. I parked and walked to the main entrance, my heart full of joy and anticipation. Soon I'd see Emily in her wedding dress, radiant, happy, ready to start a new life. Emily stood at the entrance, greeting early guests and coordinating with vendors. She looked stunning in the Vera Wang dress I'd bought her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. My little girl had grown into a beautiful woman. I approached with a wide smile, arms open for the hug I'd been waiting months for. Emily, darling, you look absolutely... She turned, and the look on her face froze me. No joy, no warmth, no recognition of who I was to her. Only cold, detached politeness. Grandma, she said formally, what are you doing here? Grandma. Not Grandma Maggie. Grandma. I'm here for your wedding, Princess. What do you mean? What am I doing here? She glanced around nervously, as if checking who was watching. Grandma, you weren't invited to the wedding. The world spun. I felt physically dizzy, as if the ground had disappeared beneath me. You weren't invited? What do you mean? You weren't invited? Emily, I'm your grandmother. I raised you. I paid for this wedding. I know, she said in the same cold, formal tone. And we're very grateful for your financial contribution. But the wedding itself is for immediate family and close friends only. Family? I wasn't family. Emily? I whispered, my voice trembling. I don't understand. What's going on here? At that moment, Brandon appeared beside Emily, looking like he'd stepped off a magazine cover in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. When he saw me, His expression shifted to something between irritation and embarrassment. "Any problems?" he asked Emily, not even acknowledging me. "No problems," Emily said quickly. "My grandmother was just leaving." Brandon looked at me for the first time, taking in my carefully chosen dress, my styled hair, my face full of confusion and pain. His expression was pure disdain. "I'm very sorry," he said with not a trace of regret in his voice. "But this is a very exclusive event. We simply can't accommodate additional guests." Additional guests? After nearly $1 million invested in their future, I was an additional guest. "Brandon," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "there must be a misunderstanding. I'm Emily's grandmother. I raised her from the age of 3. He exchanged a look with Emily, a look that told me something I couldn't decipher. "Yes," he said slowly. "Emily told me about her upbringing. We appreciate everything you've done, but today we're celebrating our future, not the past." The past. 25 years of love and sacrifice reduced to the past. Emily moved closer to Brandon, as if seeking protection from me. From me. "Grandma," she said, "I'm sorry if there was any confusion, but this wedding is for Brandon's family and our social circle. It's important that everything is appropriate." Appropriate? I wasn't appropriate. "Emily," I said almost in a whisper, "do you remember when you were 8 and wanted to learn horseback riding? Do you remember who made that possible?" Her face flushed, and for a moment I saw the little girl who hugged me at night, but it passed quickly. "Of course, I remember, and I'm grateful, but that doesn't change the fact that you don't fit with the crowd we're expecting today. Don't fit." The woman who raised her, educated her, sacrificed everything for her dream, didn't fit. "What crowd?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" Brandon answered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Our friends and relatives have certain expectations for wedding events. This is an elegant affair for elegant people." Elegant people? Unlike me. Other guests began arriving, people in designer clothes, stepping out of luxury cars, like they'd stepped off fashion magazine pages. I saw them glance at me with curiosity and a hint of contempt. "Please," Emily said, sounding even more frightened. "You need to leave. People are starting to notice." Notice what? That I wasn't dressed expensively enough? That I didn't belong at a wedding I'd paid for myself? "Emily," I said one last time, "I'm begging you. Don't do this. I'm not asking for anything except to see you get married. I love you." For a moment, her mask cracked. I saw tears well up, saw her struggle with some inner battle. But then Brandon put his hand on her back, and the moment passed. "I'm sorry," she said, not meeting my eyes. "But I need you to leave. Please." I stood there a moment longer, looking at the granddaughter I'd devoted my life to, hoping she'd change her mind, hoping she'd remember who we were to each other. But she turned away, took Brandon's arm and walked back inside. I watched as they greeted another couple, people who were part of their world, people who were their kind. I walked back to my car on unsteady legs, like I was in a nightmare. My hands shook as I tried to insert the key into the ignition. 25 years of my life, and I'd been dismissed like an employee who stayed too late. Sitting in the car, I watched the wedding preparations continue around me. The flowers I'd paid for were arranged into beautiful displays. The catering company I'd hired set up elegant tables. The photographers I'd invited tested their equipment. All paid for with my money. All happening without me. The phone calls, that changed everything. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, sobbing into my hands. And then something inside me changed. Grief turned into something else. Cold, clear anger. I took out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There were numbers for all the vendors, because I was the one who hired them, coordinated them, paid them. The first call was to my bank. This is Margaret Thompson, account number 4457891. I need to speak to someone about immediately stopping all payments. Excuse me, Mrs. Thompson, could you clarify which payments? All payments related to Emily Wilson's wedding scheduled for today. Every single one. There was a pause. Mrs. Thompson, are you sure? Some of these payments have already been processed, and stopping them now could result in... I don't care about the consequences, I interrupted. Stop all payments. Immediately. Yes, ma'am. I'll need to transfer you to our emergency department. 10 minutes later, all payments were frozen. Catering, florist, musicians, photographer, venue rental, everything. But I wasn't done. My second call was to Diana Martinez, the florist. Diana, this is Margaret Thompson. I'm calling about the flowers for the Wilson wedding. Oh, Mrs. Thompson. Everything looks absolutely stunning. The peonies are perfect, and the rose arrangements are some of the most beautiful we've ever done. Your granddaughter will be thrilled. My granddaughter? If only she knew. Diana, remove all the flowers. Immediately. Excuse me, what? Payments have been stopped. If you want to get paid, you need to remove all floral arrangements from the venue. Right now. There was silence on the other end. I'll have to call my team, Diana finally said. You will. And Diana? Hurry. You're not the only vendor I'm calling. My third call was to Giovanni's catering. This is Mrs. Thompson regarding the catering for the Wilson wedding today. Oh, Mrs. Thompson. Everything is going wonderfully. Hors d'oeuvres are ready, the main course is cooking, and our staff is setting up the banquet hall. This is going to be a magnificent celebration. Giovanni, I'm cancelling the catering contract. Payments have been stopped. Cancelled? Today? Signora, this is impossible. We've prepared food for 150 people. My entire staff is here. We've rented additional equipment. Then I suggest you pack it all up and take it with you. You have 1 hour before the ceremony. After that, security will escort you off the property. But, Signora, this will ruin the wedding. Yes, I said calmly. I think it will. The fourth call was to the string quartet. Hello, this is Margaret Thompson. I hired you for the Wilson wedding today. Yes, Mrs. Thompson. We're all set and ready to play. The acoustics in this hall are wonderful. I need you to pack up and leave. The contract is cancelled and payments have been stopped. Leave? But we have the processional in an hour and a half. It's not happening anymore. You'd better hurry. I have a feeling chaos is about to break out. Hello, Marcus. This is Margaret Thompson. I hired you for the Wilson wedding photos. Mrs. Thompson. Perfect timing. I was just scouting beautiful spots for the couple's portraits. The lighting here is magical. Marcus, I need you to pack up your equipment and leave the venue. Leave? I don't understand. The contract is cancelled. Payments have been stopped. You're no longer working at this wedding. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You can't reshoot a wedding. No, I agreed. You can't. My final call was the most satisfying. Rosewood Manor, this is Catherine. Catherine, this is Margaret Thompson. I rented your venue for the Wilson wedding today. Yes, Mrs. Thompson. Everything is going perfectly. Your event is going to be absolutely stunning. Catherine, I'm cancelling the venue rental. Payments have been stopped. Excuse me, what did you say? You heard me correctly. The rental agreement is void as of now. I suggest you inform the Wilsons they need to find alternative arrangements. Mrs. Thompson, this is unprecedented. We've never had a same-day cancellation. Guests are arriving. Vendors are working. Then you'd better start calling, hadn't you? After the last call, I drove to a coffee shop about half a mile from the venue. I ordered a large coffee and a slice of apple pie, a hearty meal, and sat by the window watching the road leading to Rosewood Manor. 30 minutes later, I saw the first vendor's truck leaving the venue. It was Diana's flower van, packed, I assumed, with my white peonies and roses. 20 minutes after that, Giovanni's truck followed, loaded with food and equipment. Then, the string quartet's van. Then the photographer's SUV, packed with lighting gear. Each departing vehicle felt like a victory. My phone rang at exactly 4:15 p.m., 15 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start. Emily's name flashed on the screen. I sent it to voicemail. The phone rang again, and again, and again. After the 5th ring, I answered. Hello, Emily? What have you done? She shrieked, panicked. What have you done? I exercised my right as the person who paid for it all and stopped funding the privilege of being humiliated. You can't do this. You can't ruin my wedding. I didn't ruin your wedding, Emily. You destroyed our relationship. I just stopped paying for the privilege of being disrespected. Grandma Maggie, please. Don't call me that. You made it clear I'm just grandma to you now. A financial obligation from the past. It's not... I didn't mean... You're crying because your wedding is ruined. Not because you broke my heart. That's not true. Isn't it? An hour ago, you couldn't even look at me. You were ashamed of my existence. And now you want me to fix the mess you made. Please, she whispered. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Forgive me. You're sorry your wedding was ruined, not because you hurt me. That's not... Listen, Brandon, I heard in the background, and he took the phone. Mrs. Thompson, this is madness. You're ruining the most important day of our lives over some petty grievance. Petty grievance? Your fiancé just told me I wasn't worthy of attending the wedding I paid for. Look, maybe there was a misunderstanding, but destroying our wedding won't fix anything. Name your price. What do you need to make this right? My price. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. My price is 25 years of unconditional love and self-sacrifice. Your fiancé just told me that wasn't enough to earn a place at her wedding. That's ridiculous. Emily loves you. Does she? An hour ago, she looked at me like I was a stranger who didn't belong in her life. She was just stressed. Wedding day stress. Wedding day stress doesn't turn love into shame, Brandon. Your fiancée was embarrassed by me. She didn't want your sophisticated friends to know her grandmother was just a middle-class woman who sold her home to pay for her dream. That's not, isn't it? Tell me, Brandon, what did Emily tell your family about her upbringing? Did she mention I worked 2 jobs to pay for her private school? That I refinanced my home 3 times to send her to Stanford? That I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch so she could buy a $400 dress? Silence. Or did she let them believe she came from the same privileged background as you? Silence again. Exactly what I thought. Mrs. Thompson, Brandon said more quietly, I think there was a misunderstanding about today's guest list. No misunderstanding. Your fiancé made it clear I don't fit in with your circle. My mother can be very particular about social events. And there it was, the truth. Your mother decided I wasn't good enough for your wedding. She didn't say that outright, but she thought the guest list should be carefully curated to maintain a certain atmosphere. And Emily agreed with that. Another long pause. Emily wanted to fit into our family. She wanted to make a good impression. So, she gave up 25 years of love to impress people she's known for 2 years. Mrs. Thompson, please, can't we work this out? The wedding starts in 5 minutes. All our guests are here. Then you'd better start explaining to your guests why there's nothing to celebrate. What do you want from us? I want Emily to understand what she's lost. And I want you to understand. The woman you're marrying is capable of betraying the person who loved her more than anyone else in the world. If she could do it to me, she can do it to you. That's different. Is it? Today, she chose your mother's approval over my feelings. Tomorrow, she might choose something else over yours. Love without loyalty isn't love at all, Brandon. It's just convenience. As I spoke, I noticed increased activity on the road to Rosewood Manor. Cars were turning around. Guests were leaving. Word was spreading that something terrible had happened. I need to go, I said to Brandon. I'm sure you have a lot of explaining to do. I hung up and drove closer to the venue, parking where I could see the main entrance. It was chaos. Guests in formal wear stood in confused groups. Some were taking photos with their phones, not the wedding photos Emily probably imagined. Others were getting into cars and leaving. In the distance, I saw Emily, still in her beautiful wedding dress, desperately gesturing, talking to different people. Her perfect hairstyle was falling apart, her makeup streaked with tears. Brandon was talking to a group of older people I assumed were his parents. Even from afar, I could see the anger and embarrassment on their faces. The venue staff was frantically trying to figure out what to do with 150 guests who had come to a wedding that no longer existed. What I didn't expect was how quickly this story would spread on social media. Within an hour, wedding guests had posted photos and videos of the disaster on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Someone even created a hashtag, #Rosewood Wedding Fail. Guys, I'm at the craziest wedding of my life, one post read, accompanied by a video of empty tables and confused guests. It just disappeared. No food, no flowers, no music. The bride is devastated. Another post showed Emily crying in her wedding dress, captioned, "When your dream wedding becomes your worst nightmare in real life." The comments were brutal. How can you mess up a wedding like that? Didn't they pay their vendors? That's what happens when you try to have a wedding you can't afford. I feel bad for the bride, but how can you not have a backup plan? If only they knew the truth. Over the next 2 hours, Emily called me 17 more times. I sent each call to voicemail, but listened to every message. Message 1. Grandma Maggie, please call me back. We can fix this. I'll explain everything to everyone. Just please call the vendors. Message 3. I'm begging you. Brandon's parents are furious. His mother is saying terrible things about me. Please don't let my wedding be ruined because of my mistake. Message 7. I told everyone you were sick and hospitalized. That's why you're not here. Please, if you ever loved me, fix this. Message 12. Guests are leaving. People are posting videos online. This will haunt me forever. Please, Grandma, forgive me. I'm so sorry. Message 15. Brandon is talking about calling it off. He says his family can't be associated with such a disaster. I'm losing everything. Please help me. Message 17. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. But please don't let my entire life fall apart because of one terrible decision. I love you. I've always loved you. The last message broke something in me. Not because I was ready to forgive her, but because I realized she still didn't understand what she'd done wrong. She was sorry her wedding was ruined, not because she'd broken my heart. She wanted me to save her from the consequences of her choice, not because she truly understood how deeply she'd hurt me. At 7 p.m., I got a call from an unknown number. Mrs. Thompson, this is Vivian Ashworth, Brandon's mother. Ah, the architect of my humiliation. Mrs. Ashworth, I think we need to talk about what happened today. I think today's events speak for themselves. Mrs. Thompson, I want you to know. I had no idea you were the one who paid for the wedding. Emily led us to believe her family was quite affluent. My family truly has significant means. Over the past 25 years, I've spent nearly $1 million on Emily's education and opportunities. Yes, that's very admirable. But you must understand we have certain standards for family events. Standards that exclude the people who make these events possible. That's not... Look, perhaps there was a misunderstanding about the guest list. There was no misunderstanding. Your future daughter-in-law told me I wasn't refined enough for your family event. I'm sure she didn't mean... Mrs. Ashworth, let me ask you something. If someone paid for your son's education, his opportunities, his wedding, and then was told they weren't worthy of attending that wedding, how would you feel? Silence. I thought so. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have nothing more to say to you or your family. Mrs. Thompson, wait. Can't we work something out? The children are desperate. The children are adults who made an adult choice. They can live with the consequences like adults. I hung up. The next morning, I woke up feeling empty. Not satisfied with my revenge. Not happy about Emily's pain. Just hollow. On my phone, 23 missed calls and 47 text messages, all from Emily. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Emily did her homework for 15 years, and finally listened to her messages. The story of the evening unfolded. 6 p.m. Grandma, Brandon's family's leaving. They say the wedding has become a disgrace to their family. 7 p.m. We tried to salvage something. We ordered pizza and asked the remaining guests to stay. Only about 20 people stayed. 8 p.m. Someone recorded everything, and it's spreading online. The hashtag number, #Rosewood Wedding Fail, is trending. People are calling it the wedding disaster of the year. 9 p.m. Brandon and I had a huge fight. He blames me for not handling the situation. He says I should have told his family the truth about my past from the beginning. 10 p.m. Brandon seems to have changed his mind about marriage. He went back to his parents instead of staying with me. 11 p.m. I'm alone in our hotel room, still in my wedding dress. I keep thinking about how you used to tell me the only people who really matter are the ones who love us. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to understand what you meant. The storm on social media. Over the next few days, the story of Emily's failed wedding continued to spread online. Wedding planning blogs picked it up as a cautionary tale. Social media influencers used it as an example of what happens when you try to live beyond your means. But what they told was wrong. Everyone assumed it was due to poor planning or financial irresponsibility. No one knew about the grandmother who wasn't invited to the wedding she paid for. Emily was portrayed as a victim of circumstance, not the cause of her downfall. That troubled me more than I expected. The confrontation. A week after the wedding disaster, Emily showed up at my house. I saw her through the front window. She was sitting in her car in my driveway, crying. She sat there for 20 minutes before finally getting out and walking to my door. When the doorbell rang, I almost didn't answer. But something about her, so broken, so alone, made me open the door. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes red and swollen. She'd lost weight. The confident, refined woman who rejected me a week ago was gone. "Hi, Grandma Maggie," she said quietly. "Emily, can I come in?" "Please." I stepped aside and let her into the home where she'd grown up. She looked around, as if seeing it for the first time. Or maybe, for the first time in years, remembering it. "It looks the same," she said softly. "Some things don't change." We sat in the living room, in the same room where we'd watched movies together, where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd opened Christmas presents for 20 years. "Brandon left me," she said without preamble. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt to hear. "I'm sorry." "You. After what I did to you." I looked at her, really looked. This was the little girl who climbed into my bed during thunderstorms, who made me Mother's Day cards every year, who called me her hero in her graduation speech. "Yes," I said honestly. "I'm sorry you're hurting. I never wanted you to hurt Emily. Not even now." And then she started crying, deep, body-shaking sobs. "I ruined everything," she gasped. "My marriage, my reputation, my relationship with you. Everyone I work with has seen those videos. Everyone knows I'm the bride whose wedding fell apart." "Why, Emily?" I asked. "Why did you do it? Why did you trade 25 years of love for people who clearly didn't love you?" She was silent for a long time, wiping her eyes with tissues from the same box that had sat on our coffee table for years. "Brandon's family was everything I thought I wanted," she finally said. Money, status, connections. When I met them, I felt like I'd finally made it. Like I was finally good enough. Good enough for what? For the life I thought I deserved. In college, all my friends had trust funds, family money, opportunities. I was on scholarship and worked in the cafeteria to pay for textbooks. I was grateful for everything you did for me, but I was also ashamed. That word hit me like a physical blow. You were ashamed of me? I was ashamed of our circumstances. Ashamed that I needed financial help. Ashamed that my friends went skiing in Aspen while I went home to Ohio. Ashamed that my grandmother worked 2 jobs while their grandparents played golf at country clubs. Each word was a knife in my heart. So when Brandon's family accepted me, when they invited me into their world, I thought I could finally leave it all behind. I thought I could pretend to be someone I wasn't. And I didn't fit into that picture. You represented everything I was trying to escape. Your clothes, your car, your house. It all screamed middle class. And I was afraid that if Brandon's family saw you, they'd realize I was middle class too, that I didn't belong in their world. So you decided not to let me attend the most important day of your life. I told myself it was just for one day, that after the wedding, everything would go back to normal between us, that you'd understand. How could you possibly think I'd understand being excluded from your wedding? Because you always understood. You always forgave me, always supported me, always sacrificed for me. I thought this would be another sacrifice you'd make for my happiness. The casual cruelty of that assumption took my breath away. You thought I'd be happy to pay for a wedding I couldn't attend. I thought you wanted me to be happy more than you wanted to be there. I looked at her, at this woman I'd raised, trying to understand how she could be so profoundly wrong. Emily, do you know why I worked 2 jobs? Why I refinanced my home 3 times? Why I gave up everything for your education and opportunities? Because you loved me. Because I wanted to share in your successes. I wanted to be part of your journey. I wanted to celebrate your achievements with you. The money was never the point. The point was being part of your life. She started crying again. I understand that now. But back then, I only cared about fitting in. About finally being accepted by people I thought were better than us. And how did that work out for you? Brandon's mother called me yesterday. She said the family decided I'm not suitable for their son. That this wedding disaster showed I lack the dignity and standing to be part of their family. The same woman who decided I wasn't suitable for your wedding. Yes, and she was wrong about you, just as I was wrong about them. Tell me about your job, I asked. Emily's face twisted. I was let go. They said the negative publicity was damaging the company's image. Someone sent them the hashtag in all the videos. Your friends? Gone. Most of them were Brandon's friends to begin with, and the ones who were mine. They're embarrassed to be associated with this mess. Your apartment? I can't afford it without Brandon and without a job. I'm moving out next week. So she'd lost everything. Fiancé, job, friends, home. And for what? To impress people who abandoned her the moment things went wrong. What do you plan to do? I don't know. I've been looking for work, but everyone in my field has already heard about the wedding disaster. I'm practically unemployed in New York. We sat in silence for a while. I looked at this broken woman and tried to reconcile her with the confident, beautiful bride who rejected me a week ago. Emily, I finally said, do you understand what you lost when you chose them over me? I lost you. You lost more. You lost your integrity. You lost the person you used to be. The Emily I raised would never treat anyone the way you treated me, let alone someone who loved her. I know. Are you sure? Because even now, having lost everything, you still seem to think it's about the wedding. It's not about the wedding, Emily. It's about who you're becoming. Can you forgive me? She asked quietly. I had been afraid of this question because I didn't know the answer. I don't know, I said honestly. I love you. I always will. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. And trust isn't the same as forgetting. What does it take? Time and change. Real change. Not just regret because things didn't go your way. I'll do anything. Emily, for 25 years, you learned that I'd always be there to catch you when you fell. You took that for granted. You assumed my love was unconditional and unshakable. Isn't it? My love is unconditional. My trust isn't. My willingness to endure poor treatment isn't. My acceptance of disrespect isn't. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I need to see that you've learned something from this, that you understand the difference between love and support, that you know the difference between supporting someone and letting them use you. I understand. I see it now. You see it? Or do you see it only because you need me again? The question hung in the air between us. Over the next few months, Emily slowly began rebuilding her life. She returned to Ohio, took a job at a local marketing firm for half the salary she earned in New York, and rented a small apartment on the other side of town. She never asked me for money. Not once. Instead, she asked for something harder, my time and attention. She started coming over for dinner every Sunday, not asking for anything, just talking. About her new job, her struggles with anxiety and depression, her therapy sessions with Dr. Rodriguez, the same therapist she'd seen as a child. Doctor, Rodriguez says I have abandonment issues, she told me one Sunday. She thinks losing my parents at such a young age made me desperately need acceptance from any parental figure. What do you think? I think she's right. When Brandon's family accepted me, I felt like I'd found parents again. And I was so afraid of losing that feeling that I was willing to sacrifice everything to keep it. Including me. Including you, the person who was my parent for 25 years. These conversations were painful but necessary. We were rebuilding our relationship on honesty, not on my endless tolerance. 6 months after the wedding disaster, Emily brought me a letter, handwritten, 10 pages long, detailing every memory of my sacrifices for her. Every lesson, every opportunity, every time I'd put her needs before my own. But the most important part was the end. Grandma Maggie, I'm not apologizing because I'm sorry things went badly. I'm apologizing because I finally understand what I did to you. I took the most selfless love I've ever received and treated it as if it were worth nothing. I looked at the woman who raised me, who sacrificed everything for my happiness, and decided she wasn't good enough to share the happiest day of my life with me. I chose strangers over the person who knew me better than anyone. I chose appearances over substance. I chose what I thought would make me look better over what I knew was right. You deserve better from me. You deserve gratitude, respect, and honor. Instead, I shut you out, shamed you, and betrayed you. I can't undo what I've done. I can't give you back the wedding day you should have had. I can't erase the pain I caused you. But I can promise you, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the love you gave me. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserved it from the beginning. I read that letter 3 times before I could speak. Thank you, I finally said. That's what I needed to hear. 2 years after the disaster at Rosewood Manor, Emily came to me with a different request. I'm seeing someone, she said. His name is Michael. He's a teacher at the school where I volunteer. He knows everything about what happened with Brandon, about how I treated you, about who I used to be. And he still loves me. But more than that, he admires you. He says the woman who could raise someone as strong as me, even if I strayed for a while, must be an incredible woman. I liked him already. I want to marry him, Grandma Maggie. But this time, I want to do it right. A simple ceremony. Just family and real friends. In the backyard of this house where I grew up. With you by my side, where you always should have been. I looked at Emily. Really looked at her. The mask of sophistication was gone. The desperate need for approval was gone. In its place was something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine peace. Are you sure this is what you want? A simple backyard wedding? This is what I've always wanted. I don't need to impress anyone anymore. I just need to marry the man I love and be surrounded by people who love me. 6 months later, we held Emily's real wedding in my backyard. 50 guests, potluck dinner, flowers from my garden, and music from Michael's friend who played guitar. Emily wore a simple white dress that cost $200. She looked more beautiful than she had in the $6,000 Vera Wang gown. When the officiant asked who gave this woman in marriage, I stood and said, yes, with all my love and blessing. Emily turned to me, tears streaming down her face, and silently mouthed, thank you. After the ceremony, as we cleaned up together, Emily said, this was perfect. This is what a wedding should be. Why? Because everyone here loves us for who we are, not for what we have or what we can give them, but for who we are inside. Now 3 years later, Emily and Michael have a beautiful marriage and are expecting a baby. She still lives in Ohio, works at a marketing company, and comes over for Sunday dinner. But more importantly, she understands the difference between people who love you and people who value what you can do for them. Grandma Maggie, she said last Sunday, I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Always. Do you think I've become a better person than I was before the wedding disaster? I thought carefully. The Emily sitting across from me was humble, where she used to feel entitled, grateful where she used to be demanding, genuine where she used to be artificial. Yes, I said. I think you've become exactly the person you were always meant to be. Do you think maybe that wedding disaster was the best thing that could have happened to me? That was a difficult question, because it meant acknowledging that sometimes the people we love most need to lose everything to find themselves. I think, I said carefully, you needed to understand what truly matters. And sometimes the only way to learn that is to lose what doesn't matter and see what's left. What's left? Love. Real love. The kind that doesn't depend on what you can give or how you make others look bad. The kind that sees you at your worst and still chooses to stay.